All right. Hi, good evening, Natalia. Are you? Is everything okay?
Hi, Professor. Yes, I am good, thank you. I think that's the connection. I have problem connections.
All right. All right, Natalia, we're going good. And I don't think, or actually, I don't know if my connection also is not that good, but everything is kind of slow. But I believe it's going to get better, Natalia. Now, I believe, no, it's my connection that is stable. All right.
Mhm.
How can you hear me? Can you hear me well, more or less? How can you
Eh,
hear me?
I hear you with echo.
Okay, I thought I fixed that. I'm going to fix it again. Give me a second.
Okay.
Good. Now it is working. All right. So today,
Yes.
Natalia, we're going to try to work. We have to cover today and tomorrow. Well, not tomorrow. Friday it is going to be right the last two classes that we got. So we have kind of two important lessons to cover, three in total. So we're going to try to cover at least one or two first before we can go with any doubts or anything related to the connection or to your essay, right? Perhaps we can check your essay. I don't know if you were able to revise it, to check it, and to correct those details so that we can take a look at it now. Well, actually, after the presentation.
Yes, I
Yes?
check the essay and I upload again the with the corrections.
Okay, good. So let's finish this lesson. At least today we're going to work with this lesson. We check your essay. I'm going to give you the corrections over there generally, all right? And then we try to cover at least the introduction for the next lesson so that on Friday we work on your speaking presentation that is related to your reading presentation as well. And we cover the last lesson, all right? That's what we're going to be doing today and Friday. So let's begin with this. Now, we have to cover only something very specific here, Natalia, because we already know and we covered this two times, right? Twice. Adjective clauses or relative clauses, right? When you use which or who or whom, right? We know that. So we're just reviewing, but we have something new. And that's what we're going to be practicing today. So we know that which is for objects, right? It can be the subject of the clause or the object of the clause, right? For example, that party was incredible. If you want to say something about it, actually, this is the main idea. Peter was talking about the party. Now we have extra information about the party. The party was incredible. So Peter, right? You remember, copy, paste. We don't have to change anything. So Peter was talking about the party, right? Which was incredible. Here, that party is the subject. So here, which is the subject, right? Easy. Which was incredible. This is the adjective clause. And we always follow that rule in Natalia. We know that, but again, we have to remember in this case, which is the subject. Now, following the same example, right? Peter was talking about the party. Now the information has the party as the object. My friend dreamt about that party. So again, right? Copy, paste, copy, paste. So Peter was talking about the party which my friend dreamt about. Here, which is not subject, right? It is the object. Is receiving here the action. My friend was dreaming or my friend dreamt about the party. And this which is replacing the party, right? So here in the first one is the subject, in the second one is the object. And you know the rule, if you remember what we learned, Natalia, if you see a verb, then it is the subject. If you see, well, another subject, a noun or a pronoun, then this is the object, okay? And here, this is another alternative because the preposition can be at the end or the preposition can be at the beginning if you have a preposition. All right, so those are general ideas. We know this, we learned these elements, we are just reviewing. We're going to go quickly to the next part, and then we're going to see general questions. If we have people, we have to use who and whom, right? If it is the subject, we are going to use who. If it's the object, we have to use whom, right? So again, Peter was talking about the person. Here, the person is the subject. So in this case, who is the subject of your idea, right? Peter was talking about the person who graduated from the school, right? So who, after who we have a verb, so easy. Who is the subject, right? Same idea. Peter was talking about the person. A dog barked at the person. So here the person is not the subject, it's the object. So again, you don't have to rethink everything. It is always the same idea and the same idea. Peter was talking about the person. Peter was talking about the person. Copy paste here. A dog barked at the person. You paste it here. A dog barked at the person. But we have person 2 times, so we delete the second person and we add whom. Why? Because in this case, the person is not the subject of this idea. A dog is the subject. The person is the object of the idea, is receiving the action, and that's why we use whom, right? So again, how do you identify? If after the clause you have a verb, it is the subject. If after the clause you got, well, actually after this word, the adjective, all right, connector, you have a noun or a pronoun, it means this is the subject, or sorry, the object in this case. All right, so it's the same as the previous one, but here you use 2 different words, right? Who when it's the subject, and whom when it's the object. It's specific to who and whom. We practice this, all right? If you get to have specific questions, we're going to try to cover them. But again, this is something that we should know, but we're still going to practice that today. But we are going to practice this by applying the new thing that we are going to see in this presentation. All right, and it's not those, it is this: restrictive clauses and non-restrictive clauses. Here, doing this, you're going to practice one more time, using which, using who, and using whom. Okay, those are the most important ones. So let's read this first element, please, here, Natalia. This is restrictive clauses.
A restrictive clause restricts or defines the meaning of a noun or noun phrase and provides necessary information about the noun in the sentence. It is not separate from the rest of the sentence by commas. The student who sits in the back of the room asks a lot of questions. The results which I obtain may invoke positive social change. The journalist whose story I read yesterday has won prizes for her job.
All right, thank you very much. Now, this is what you were supposed to do in the 2 previous lessons, right? You're using adjective clauses that are important because we need this information to identify the student. Who's the student? I don't know. So this is important. We don't use commas. The results, what results? We don't know. So this is important to identify the results, right? So in any example like that, so we're going to go to our, where's this? To our document. It's pretty slow now. I don't know what's happening. All right.
But it's like a clarification about the subject, the restrictive clause.
Yes, about any person, because remember here, restrictive is more than clarification. Yeah, it's clarification, but it's important and necessary information to identify that person or that object. It's not always subject. It can be the subject, it can be the object. it's never not going to be the subject every time, just the person or the object that is not clear. So it's not new. Actually, that's not new. That's everything that we did so far. It is the same. We don't have to use commas, right? And we're going to see that with some examples. And it's going to be here. And again, I don't know why today it is pretty slow, but I'm here. All right. And there you go. All right. So again, here it is the same logic. This is going to be a way of practicing what you already know, Natalia. Right? So we're going to use very common examples, right? I saw the teacher, right? So we don't know what teacher. We want extra information about the teacher that is important to identify the teacher, right? So the teacher, right, was at the meeting. Okay, so that's extra information about the teacher. So here, this is the main element. I hope you can hear me well because
Yes.
I hope it's not lagging. All right. And well, it's what we know, right? It's exactly everything that we know. Remember that you only have to copy, paste. It's just explanation for why we don't use commas. Copy and paste, right? Teacher 2 times, so you delete it. How do you connect it? It is a person, so what do we use? Who or whom? It is the subject, so we have to use who, right? Easy, and that's it. We are only saying, why don't we use a comma over here? We don't use a comma because this information here, it is not necessary extra information. It is actually important, necessary information to identify this teacher. So if that's the case, we don't use commas. And it's going to be every time you talk about something general that you don't know what you're talking about. So if we don't know what teacher you're talking about, and this is important to know what teacher you're talking about, then you don't know, you don't use that. All right? Anytime you use the or you use it's going to be general. And in that case, you don't use a comma, right? That's the only thing. Now, to understand again the difference between restrictive, this is restrictive, and we work with restrictive. But we didn't work exactly, and I think you gave some examples, and we used commas over there, but I told you that we were going to cover later on. And this is what happens when we use a definite object or person. We have to use comma, because in this case, it is not going to be necessary to identify the noun. It is going to be only extra information that can be there or not. Okay, so let's read please non-restrictive clauses.
A non-restrictive clause adds additional information to a sentence. It is usually a proper noun or a common noun that refers to a unique person, thing, or event. It uses commas to show that the information is additional. The commas almost act like parentheses within the sentence. Never do use that in this type of clause. Minneapolis, which has a population of about 4,000, is the largest city in Minnesota. I had to fix my printer, which I bought less than a year ago. I was talking about David Gilmour, who is my favorite guitarist.
Okay, thank you very much. Just a little bit. Remember, this instead of 4,000, it has to be 400,000.
Yes.
Right? 400,000. Good. Now, again, here we are using commas. Why? Because Minneapolis is a proper noun. Because my printer is my printer. It's not your printer. It's not any printer. It's not a printer in general. It's my printer, so it's a specific. So this information, it's not necessary. It's extra information. David Gilmour, proper name, so we have to use commas, right? So we use commas every time we are describing something specific. Minneapolis, specific. My printer, specific. David Gilmour, specific. So always comma, comma, and comma. And in the example that I was showing you, because in that case that's going to be better, you only have to change, instead of the teacher, you are going to talk about someone in a specific. And in that case, we use a comma, right? So instead of that, you can say, I saw Natalia, right? And here, Natalia, I was at the meeting. And here I saw Natalia. Now I cannot say who was at the meeting without comma. Why do I use comma? Because this is not important. This is not an adjective that is important to identify Natalia. Of course, you can say, right, I know many Natalias. So I know 3 Natalias. So if you feel that you have to identify what Natalia you're talking about, right, you can do it. But this is a general rule, right? We are supposing that we know what, Natalia we're talking about. So in that case, we use the comma. All right, so that's the only difference. This is then a restrictive clause. I saw the teacher who was at the meeting. No comma because the teacher is general. I don't know what teacher. And here I saw Natalia, comma, who was at the meeting. I'm using a comma, and this is a non-restrictive clause because this information is not important to identify this person because it's a specific and unique person. All right, that's the only logic. But the only thing that they are showing you by giving you a lot of examples is that you can use, of course, which, you can use who, you can use whom, everything that we learned. And deciding if you're going to use a comma or not is going to be, according to this element, right? If it's a very general element, no comma. If it's a unique element, you have to use comma. That's the only thing, and that's going to be your decision. But actually, you have the general rules that I'm showing you right now. Okay. And one more thing, I'm going to show you one more thing with objects, and then you ask me if you have questions, so that you give me some examples. All right. And actually, we're going to give examples for each type. Here we are using what? We are using who. Right. This was an example for who. Now, very easily, we can change these examples now with whom. All right, now.
It's the same.
It's the
Ah,
same.
the it
Yes,
depends
but
on
whom?
if it is the object or subject, right?
Exactly. So just to clarify this one, we're going to change just the second part. We're going to say they were with the teacher. Right. So here we're going to say whom they were with. And here we don't use comma because this information is important, right? Same logic. And here, just to clarify, because remember that we were having some problems with the object, just to clarify that. So they were with Natalia in this case, and same logic over here, right? Natalia, whom they were with. All right. And of course, it is going to be exactly the same with which. All right, just to clarify. But of course, it is going to be an object, right? And here we can easily change this just one time to which, and then please, you're going to give me your examples. This is going to be just to orientate just in case, right? So I saw the movie, right? The movie was nominated. Let's say that. Then here it is going to be, right? which was. Here it's important because we don't know what movie. So which was, of course, nominated. All right. It is going to be important. But, of course, here you can simply change this. And, of course, instead of so, we're going to say watched. That's going to be better. But so is also not incorrect, right? So I watched, then we specify, right? I don't know, right? The Titanic, let's say. All right, and we copy and paste. All right, but the idea is already there. I don't know, let me know please if you have questions, Natalia, because this is now what you're going to do. We are going to try to write a total of 4 ideas. It can take its time, but the idea again is that this is clear. All right, so there you go. That's the example with which. And of course, you know that which in your examples, you're going to do that in Natalia. It can be a subject or it can be an object as well. Here, I'm only giving you an example with a subject because as an object, it doesn't change. It only changes the second part, all right? But what do you say? Do you have any questions about this logic, about what you have to do now? Let me know, please.
No, it's clear.
All right, there you go. So let's write please the examples over here, Natalia. We need a total of 4 examples. One example with which as a subject, one with which as an object, one with who, of course, who is the subject, and one with whom, and of course, whom is also used as an object. All right, 4 examples. And in this case, just for this case, Natalia, try to use the proper nouns or specific nouns to use the comma. All right. If you can do 2 examples per category, it means one with restrictive and one with non-restrictive, that's going to be better. All right. So it's going to be actually, this is going to be like one example. All right. It's going to take some time, but at least first, if the time is not going to be on our favor, Natalia, do the following. First, I would like you to work only with non-restrictive clauses. Means comma, like the same example.
Without comma.
All right, write the 4 with the comma. Using a comma. Exactly. He's saying something very specific. Okay, try to do that first. So one with who, one with whom, and 2 with which as a subject and an object. But the 4 first elements with non-restrictive clauses, that is going to be with a comma, right? Using a comma. And if we have the time, if we see that we have the time, you're going to try to write 4 more with restrictive clauses. It means not using the comma. Okay, but that's only going to be if we have the time. We're going to see how much time you use for the first 4 examples, and according to that, we make the decision. All right?
Okay.
Good. So let's work on that, please, Natalia. We're going to try to have 5 minutes more or less.
Yes. Okay.
And remember, write the detail who is always going to be the subject and whom is always going to be the object, right? So you have to see what's better there.
Yes, okay. I'm not sure about who and whom, but maybe we can check after the examples.
Right. All right. Yes, we're going to do it. But again, remember, it's never going to be the opposite. If you have a verb after that word, it has to be who. Every time, 100%. If you see a noun or a pronoun after that word, it has to be whom, 100%. All right. And here again, it is always going to be the subject. So, but you tell me, all right, keep working on that. We're going to ask then some of the questions that you might have.
Okay. I finish.
Okay, so let's analyze what you got. I'm going to give some recommendations, and we're going to, I believe that this is going to be enough because the other one is exactly the same, but it's something that we already practiced, right? There are written clauses, we practice those without the comma, so this is new. So let's read please, Natalia. I believe that most of it is working great. We're going to see just one detail in the example with which, but let's read please
Mhm.
everything you got.
Mhm. Who? I was talking with my tour guide. My tour guide speaks four languages. I was talking with my tour guide who speaks four languages.
All right. Okay, let's keep going, please.
Whom? He runs into my aunt. I live with my aunt. He runs into my aunt who I live with. Uh, which? My TV isn't working. The TV that I bought the last month. My TV isn't working, which I bought the last month. The child is using a phone that was at the room. The child is using a phone which it was at the room.
All right, thank you very much, Natalia. Now let's analyze. In the first one, I have no observation, just one word in pronunciation. Remember, in singular, it's one language, right? But plural is languages, right? Yes, at the end, languages. Exactly, right? So let's read this one more time just to remember that, please.
I was talking with my tour guide who speak four languages. Who
Exactly,
speaks
right? Who
four
speaks
languages.
four languages. Exactly, there
Mhm,
you go. Now, this is good, but if you tell me that this is present, you're telling me that this is a routine, that he always meets accidentally your aunt,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
Always. But it's not a routine, right? To meet someone by accident is not a routine. It's something that happens or that happened, right? So I believe that here your best shot is ran in past. Okay,
mhm,
so here ran into my aunt. I live with my aunt. It's perfect because the example is good, but you're also missing one thing. All right, so here also ran. He ran into my aunt. So as your aunt is definite, it's only your aunt and only your aunt. The rule again is that we use commas, right? With
mhm,
definite objects, people, we have to use the comma. All right, but everything else is perfect. So far, we're working perfectly, right? Why who here? Because the second idea is using the thing we're talking about as the object, and we have as a verb after that. So always who, always who. Never, there is never going to be whom before a verb. Okay, never. So here, whom? Why? Because the opposite. It's not the object, it's the subject, right? It's the object. So after whom, we are always going to find another subject because whom is not the subject, is the object, but is placed before. That is just inverted, but it is our object. All right, so no observation so far. Now, here, more than this being an observation, remember here, you're not giving me a complete idea. You are giving me like a clause, right? The TV that I bought the last month, that's an incomplete idea. That's a phrase. But I believe this is not your second idea, right? Because if you copy this and paste, and you copy this and paste, it's not going to get the same result, right? Actually, here, your complete sentence is I bought, right, my
mhm,
TV, and remember just last month, right? That's your
mhm,
sentence. Here you're showing me that you're using your TV as the object. Okay, here your TV is the object. So here we're using which, yes, but the TV is the object. And how do you know? Because after which you have a pronoun, right? If you have that, you know that it is the object. It is receiving the object. Now, here you have also something that we didn't practice, but I told you, remember, we have to use this idea in immediately after the thing that we're describing. So are we describing working, or are we describing my TV? Right? We are describing my TV, right? So everything, all the clause is never going to be divided from the idea. This has to go where? Just right after the word, always. All right? And like that. And here you use commas. Why? Because my TV is specific. Remember, that's what we're learning. We're learning today that we have to use commas when we have a specific, unique elements. My tour guide, my aunt, my TV. So comma, and in this case, two commas. Why? Because we are dividing this from the main idea. All right, so that's very important. And again, we know that my TV is the object here because after which we don't have a verb, after which we have a noun or a pronoun, right? Now here, now this is good. It was only a detail of order and the second example, all right? But it was correct, but the order. Now, the last one is not correct, but because of also one thing. Now you're going to tell me what you're talking about in this case, Natalia. Or actually, we're going to identify. The thing that is being repeated is the thing you're talking about, right? A phone. So the child is using a phone. A phone, right, was at the room, right? We don't need to say that was at the room because that's an incomplete idea. That is a clause. Here we only need a sentence, right? So a phone was at the room, right? Now, is a phone the subject or the object of the second idea, Natalia? What do you say?
What is the difference between the subject and object? The subject is the person that is doing the action?
No, the subject is always before the verb. The subject is always the one that does the action. Right? So here, what is before the verb? A phone. Right? So subject is always before the verb and object is always after the verb. Okay, that's how you recognize. Here, what is the subject here? I. What is the object? My aunt. Right? What is the object here? He. What is the subject? He. What is the object? My aunt. Right here, what is the subject? My tour guide. What is the object? 4 languages. Right, the same here. The subject, I, the object, my tour guide. Right, so easy to recognize. Here, the subject is the child, the object is a phone. So, exactly. So the child is a subject and a phone is the object. So we're using which? So you're giving me more information about the phone. So in the second idea, is the phone the subject or the object of your sentence? In the second idea.
The object.
But in the second idea, remember, here,
in the,
see?
Yeah, the subject.
Exactly, it's the subject, right? So it means if it's the subject, we're going to do this together. Remember, we're only copying and pasting, and you're going to tell me what's incorrect in your sentence. All right, so we copy, paste, we copy, right? And in that way, if you do this, again, you are not going to make the mistakes that you did over here, and the mistake also that you had over here because you said here that, right? But if you realize you never even use that here, right? You don't have that, so it was not part of the sentence. So remember, what's the rule? A phone, a phone. We're repeating, so you have to delete this one. Now you have to connect. A phone is a person or is a thing? It's a thing, right? Do we use who or which? We use which. That's it. Okay, now why this is incorrect? Because you're telling me here that the phone is the object of your second idea because you are adding another pronoun, but you never used another pronoun, right? You only used a phone, but a phone is our object. So we don't repeat the object, right? It's as if you were telling me this, Natalia. You're telling me here, the child is using a phone, which a phone was at the room, right? That's what you're telling me. But if we don't repeat the same idea, that's why we don't need that it. The correct thing to do over there will be just that, because it is the phone, and we don't repeat the phone, we only use this element over here. All right, so those are my corrections over there. And again, in this case, we don't use a comma. Yes, we don't use a comma. Why? Because a phone is very general. So it is important to say which was at the room to identify that phone. That's it. I don't know if you have any questions about those details, Natalia. Let me know, please.
An object is the is always is received that receive the action.
Exactly. Even in passive voice. Remember that on Monday we saw passive voice, right? And I told you, right? It's not that we don't have a subject. The subject is now that thing, that idea. But yes, the object is always going to receive the action, and it's going to be after the verb.
And the subject do the action.
Exactly. The subject does the action. It always does the action. So it's always going to be before the verb.
Okay.
All right. So according to that, if you have the second idea at the first part, it's the subject. If you have the thing in the second part, it's the object. Here it's after the verb, so it's an object. Here it's before the verb, so it's a subject, right? And you recognize that immediately because after subjects, you always have verbs. After objects, you always have other pronouns or nouns. And here and here, right? But that's the idea. If you identify that quickly, you are never going to make a mistake, with which there is no much problem, right? Because it's the same. But with who, remember, that's the logic, right? So if in the second idea it does the action, you use who. If in the second idea it receives the action, you use who. All right? It's always going to be like that.
Okay.
All right, so what else? Do you have any other questions or details? Because with this, actually, we're going to finish this lesson and we're going to go to check your essay.
No, it's clear.
Exactly, right? It's going to be just a matter of practicing. So keep practicing with this. You have to feel comfortable. You have to feel good. If you want, now I'm not going to give you this task because you have things to do for Friday. But if you have the time, you can work extra examples and you show them to me on Friday. Only if you feel not that sure yet. All right? If not, there's no problem. So let's go directly to the correction. A short correction, but it's going to be good doing it here with you so that we analyze all those elements. All right, so let's take a look.
After the last class, I have to take another extra classes, or I will be ready. I don't know if I'm ready for take a TOEFL.
No, they have to tell you, because I believe that it's according to your scores that they are going to tell you how many extra hours you need, and those are going to involve extra extra classes, of course. You're going to be with a different teacher for that. According to what they were showing me, yes, in the courses, each time you had lower score than 90, it is going to involve some extra hours. All right. But I believe not that many because you were doing good at Pearson. But again, that's something that I don't control. A management is going to tell you directly, right? These were your scores in these courses, and these are the number of hours that you need to take before the preparation course. I don't believe you have many extra hours, but I think you're going to have some. But management is going to give you the specific details about that. All
And there
right.
are specific recommendations or I don't know, specific tips for take the exam in less time or something like this about the exam only?
In the TOEFL, are you talking about the TOEFL
Mm-hmm.
specifically? Yes, the preparation course. The preparation course is specifically about that strategies. All right, they are going to teach you strategies for each part, for the speaking part, for the writing part, for the reading part. They are going to give you templates, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they're going to give you like words, and you have to fill in the words for the speaking response, for all the details. All right. So yes, they are going to teach you everything about the time, everything about strategies, techniques, how to take notes, right? It's important to know how to take notes. You don't have
Mm-hmm.
to write, for example, I can tell you that now, right? But it's part of the preparation course. They're going to tell you you never write complete words, right? You have to know how to write, and that's something you have to discover. They are going to give you some ideas, but you have to do that on your own. Okay, I'm going to give you just one example of what they are going to teach you, right? And it's something similar of what I had in the similar to the template that I gave you for writing Natalia, but even it's a little bit easier. Why? Because you don't need to be so specific. Something like this. Let me show you. Okay, so that you are prepared because they are going to give you all these elements. Um, Perhaps it is this one.
Yes, because I was thinking to take the exam in December or January, but I don't know if I need more preparation and maybe more
Uh-huh.
extra classes.
Look, this course is going to be at least 1 month. All right. But
Okay.
again, I don't know the course they are going to give you. So the extra classes perhaps it is going to be like 1 or 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Then they are going to give you the prep course. I don't know when it is going to begin, but I know that they have preparation courses for 1 month and 2 months. But I believe yours is going to be one. All right. But again, you have to verify that with management. I don't know that
Okay.
exactly. But the thing is that if you ask me, you should take the January one.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because after taking the 1 month course, you still have to practice the strategies that they gave you. That month is going to be good, but they are going to give you everything you need to know. So you need some extra time, 1 week, 2 weeks, so that you practice and apply those strategies every day and every day and every
Mm-hmm.
day. So you memorize those strategies. So again, according to the time that I see that you have because of the date, I believe the January is going to be the best option, Natalia. All right, but you have to
Okay.
decide that, of
Okay.
course. So um, this is one example. All right, of course, it's not like
Mm-hmm.
this.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so they are going to give you something like this, for example. This is a template for writing task number one. In the introduction, right, remember that you have in one of the TOEFL tasks, you have to compare what you listened in the lecture and what you read in the written extract. So in the introduction, they are giving you this template, and you're going to say something like, the written extract leads off with, right, the idea that it's important to recycle because in that way we can reuse the materials that we used in the past, and we can do this and blah, 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 blah. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Nonetheless, in the lecture, it is said that it is not a good idea because recycling is actually not going to help right environment. There are other ways to be, I don't know, right, environmentally friendly and blah blah blah. Okay, so we're showing two different positions. So they are giving you this template. They are going to make you practice with real topics, and you have to use this template so that you memorize this, right? And you say, firstly, in the reading passage, right here, you need a comma. It is claimed that blah 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 about the recycling. It's a good idea. Nevertheless, in the listening presentation, it is noted that this, and that. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, tan, 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 tan. So you're going to develop two ideas talking about the reading excerpt and the lecture. You're going to develop that in two different paragraphs. and always contrasting the two ideas. You have to use this template and this word, or well, of course not this one, the one that they are going to give you to do this exercise. All right, but the idea and the the thing that they want to do with this is that you, at the end of everything, you know all the words that you have to use to connect. So any topic you have, it's going to be memorized. Okay, that's an example. And just one more so that we have that clear for the speaking. Okay, and actually this was part, I'm going to show you, perhaps they are going to show you this as well. Look, these are some of the slides that they were sharing also with us. Okay, so this is something that they were showing us, and I believe that you're going to see something similar. Okay, this is a presentation for the speaking section, and here they are explaining everything about the TOEFL IBT, the number of tasks that you got, all right, the number of questions related to the speaking part, all right, the independent speaking tasks, the integrated speaking task, all right, and they are going to explain everything in detail for you. All right. Now they are going to teach you how to use the headphones. All right. So all the tips, everything that you need to know to take the TOEFL IBT, all right, and to, of course, do the best at that moment. Okay, but I'm going to go straight to the point. Here they show you, right, the first independent task. This is what you have to do. The preparation is going to be, right, 50 seconds, and the response is going to be 45 seconds. Right? They are giving you some recommendations for what you have to do. They are going to make you practice like this. Okay, you have the questions, you have the responses, well, where you upload the responses, and this is a type of structure that you have to memorize. Right? With regard to the topic, because of the following reasons, you give the first argument and illustration, the second argument and illustrations. And that's it. They're going to make you practice. They're going to give you a template and so on. Okay, but again, this is just for you to have an idea for what you're going to do. All right. So the preparation course is going to be specifically only for the TOEFL. But of course, you have to use all the things that you've been learning in these courses so that you use proper and correct English in all those responses.
Okay,
All
great.
right. Good. There you go. So again, that's just to give you an idea. Now, going back to our job, again, we are just working in the last classes that we got. If you can even try to contact management today or tomorrow so that you know more or less what you're going to be doing next week. Because I imagine that next week you're going to be starting with the extra hours that you need, and you need a specific schedule for that one as well.
When I finish the last person that I am doing.
Exactly, because
After
on Friday
that.
we finished the thing. You got until Sunday, if I'm not wrong. I'm going to say the scores, everything on Sunday, and perhaps on Monday they are going to make you start
Okay.
the new thing. Okay, but that's something you have to, well, talk with management. All right. Now,
Great.
let me check. This is what we're going to be doing. Okay, briefly, but if we get to finish everything actually here together, that's going to be better for me and for you. Now, good, we are inside the number of words that we need, 138, without taking the title into account. So it's good, okay? It means that, look, in the rubric, the first element, number of words, you have that 20. Okay, so you already have, this is the number of, yes, the number of words. Okay, so we're good so far. You already have 20 out of the 100. Okay, it was as easy as that. Now, let's check in detail. First, we have the elements. We have an introduction. We have the the two body paragraphs, and we have the conclusion. But of course, we have to take a look at the contents. All right. So we're going to check now, and we're going to be completing all those elements in the rubric in detail. So here, the following essay, remember, it's one essay. So instead of analyze, analyzes, right? So this is conjugation. All right, I'm going to be writing that, and conjugation, just that, so that you know you have one mistake in conjugation. All right, and it's analyzes. So the following essay analyzes both sides of the war, the point of view of Israel and the perspective of Palestine. Great. Is right here we have another mistake. Why? Because remember, in English, we always need a subject, right? This is for structure. It's close to conjugation. Why? Because we always say is, right? It's always going to be incorrect. If you do that in the TOEFL, you're going to be punishment, all right, in terms of the score. So it is necessary to clarify that this is here. Remember what I told you. Some of the nouns are countable and uncountable. Research is uncountable. Neutral is an adjective for research. So we don't say a neutral research, we only say neutral research. All right? Why? Because research is uncountable. Okay, so conjugation or structure as well. Sorry. So, neutral, or actually I'm going to give the explanation, right? Research is uncountable. All right, that's the explanation. Then about a general perspective of the current conflict, right? And here punctuation, right? So this is punctuation, right? Why? Because we have two complete ideas, right? One complete idea, it is necessary to clarify blah, 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 and it doesn't have the second complete idea. All right, so we're going to use a comma over there. And it doesn't have the intention to support one of the sides. Good, good. It's a very good introduction. This word started many decades ago with the ending of the World War II. All right, I'm not going to take this into account as a mistake, but we're only going to say of World War II as a general thing without the. Okay, it's not going to be as a mistake because I didn't mention that in the ideas. So, no, the. In 1945, and the migration of Jewish population from Germany to other countries. Uh-huh. You don't only say as Palestine, we have to say if it's an example, because if you say as Palestine, that it has a different meaning. But for example, you can say, I work as a psychologist, I work as a teacher. But to give an example, you are going to say such as, right? So we need to use, that's part of the structure. Because as just by itself, it's not work for examples. All right, as it only shows a position that you take. Okay, you work as a certain professional in a certain place. All right, or for comparisons, you are as good as her. All right, so as, only as, is for comparisons and for explaining a position. But to give examples, you have to use such as, because such as is an expression by itself. And when the two words are together, it's the only way in which you can give illustrations. All right, only using as is not going to be possible. All right, so structure is going to be such as, for examples. All right, there you go. Now, good. That's the first part. That's the introduction. Now, in the second part, because we're going to be counting everything. All right, and actually, so far we're going to be doing it. So we count. Right here, we have one for structure. Structure and conjugation are going to be in the same. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3. Right, this is not going to be into account, not taken into account. 4. Right, 1, 2. It's, yeah, we're not taking that. So 4. All right, 4 for structure, conjugation, and we have 1 for punctuation. Okay, those are the mistakes that we got so far. We're going to be counting them so that we have a total, all right? Then, concerning Israel, the conflict started right with the foundation, all right? That's a mistake just in the spelling, all right? It is close to Spanish, but the
Foundation.
spelling is going to be different. So here is a spelling. This is a type of the first type, the vocabulary. Okay, type of vocabulary mistake, spelling. All right, why? Because it's going to be like this. Right? Then of the Zionist movement. This movement defends the the return of Jewish people to Palestine as their own land. Yes, because of historical and religious reasons. Yes, it is wood, right? No, only wood, right? Because before wood we cannot place any verb, never, because wood is going to be before any verb that you want to use, right? So it would mean a solution, right? So directly would. This is just perhaps just a slide, all right? But that's going to be for qualification, right? It would, of course, with the capital letter and everything. Good. It would mean a solution for finding. I'm not going to set this again as a, but let's see. Yes, actually here, remember it is why it's a solution. And what's the purpose of that solution, right? To find a safe place to live after the discrimination, right? That's why for finding is not going to be the best option. What's the thing that we use for purpose? It is going to be infinitive. All right, to find. This is for conjugation and using a purpose. All right, and actually let's add that. All right, anytime you want to talk about purpose, we're going to use the infinitive over there. Now, a safe place to live after the discrimination suffered in Europe. One of the arguments expressed on the website Holocaust Encyclopedia says, all right, now here, if we analyzed, this is the subject, right? And this is the verb. This verb here doesn't have another subject. So we cannot divide that with a comma, right? It's like saying he, comma, plays with a ball, right? So here we are not going to use that. One of the arguments expressed on the website Holocaust says this is going to be part of the same idea. All right, so we are not going to use a comma over there.
But if I put the comma after angled argument and before says, it's like a clarification or no?
Yes, exactly. If you do that and you put over here, it is going to be a clarification. So you're going to have two ways to solve the element over here. All right, so you can use, this is punctuation. Again, right? So no commas, or use a comma, or use them as a parenthetical phrase, right? So yes, so the idea is not to use the comma because you're dividing this from the verb, or you have to use the commas to say that this is a parenthetical phrase and it's just an interruption. And in that way, this is still going to be connected at least to this verb and it's going to be correct. All right, so one of those two. But if we only have one comma that divides this from this verb or from this verb, then it is not going to be correct. All right, so those are two possible ways. It's good that you mentioned that. That's correct. So one of the arguments, comma, expressed on the website Holocaust Encyclopedia, comma, says, or no commas. Sorry. Yes, quotation, capital letter, Jewish survivors needed a homeland where they don't suffer more, and Israel was, but remember the conjugation, the choose is irregular, right? The conjugation is chose in simple past and chosen in past participle. right? So here, conjugation, all right, chose with one O, that's the simple past. Choose with two O's, simple present or base form. Chose with one O, simple past. Was, but here we need not chose. Here we need chosen, because we're using the past participle. After this is passive voice. Okay, so Israel was chosen as a homeland for this vulnerable population. Here, one little mistake, remember, right? We mentioned this. The punctuation mark is always inside the quotation marks. All right, it's going to be always inside the quotation marks. All right.
I understand the opposite.
No, it was like this. In the correction, it was like this. No, it has to be always inside. All right, always inside. So, period. All right, inside the quotes, let's say. There you go. Good. Now let's keep going. At the end of the word, United Kingdom is not bad, but again, I'm not going to take this as a mistake. The United Kingdom, as the United States, it's a group of states, a group of things, and it's part of the name to use the. All right, so we say the UK or the United Kingdom. All right, again, that's not a mistake over there. Supported the idea, all right, to create a, and here you have to say, actually, if it's going to be the purpose, it can be good. The idea to create that the purpose, but you're saying supported the idea, but you support the idea of doing something specific. Okay, you give the idea of playing. It can be two, but we're going to put it just when it works as a specific purpose. But again, here it's not the purpose that you're saying supported the idea, it is what idea it is being supported. Okay, it's the what and not why. Okay, so when you answer kind of the why, it is the infinitive to. Okay, why do you study? To go to the United States, right? To travel. But what idea do you support? Right, the idea. And here we're going to use this of. All right, and again, that's because of that. If it's why, infinitive. If it's a what, we're going to use of. All right, so here it is just part of conjugation of a gerund. I'm just going to say that gerund, and we use of. All right, a nation for Jewish. And again, this is going to be just a short detail as we're talking about, and this is something I didn't mention over there. Why do we say Jewish with the? Because when we talk about groups of people, we say the French, all right? We also say the Bolivian, the Peruvian, the American, all right? Because again, it represents a group of people. But here we're not going to consider this a mistake again. This is going to be a general recommendation. All right, so plus group of people. All right, good. Now let's keep going. Also, the same over there, right? They generated discontent and the origin of the conflict with Palestine or with the Palestine, right? Group of people with the Palestine people, or only you can say, if you say the Palestine, you don't need to say people. All right, but again, that's not going to be a mistake. Take this here, the same we're going to say, all right? The Palestine, if you want to say just that. Okay, but no mistake. People living there. For both populations, all right, this land, so if you have then this land is, this is the subject and the verb, it means that over here, this is an introductory phrase, right? So we use comma, right? Comma for introductory phrase. Okay, comma for introductory phrase. For both populations, comma, this land is sacred and represent, if it's past, represented, if it's present, represents, right? Why? Because you're talking about this land, singular. All right, so it is going to be represents right? Important precepts of their religions too. All right, for many years, great comma, Israel won words and power in these territories. So this is one good. You decided here to use the semicolon, right? It's good. Here I would say as you only have one comma before and no afterwards, you can use a comma also over here. It's good, but it's your decision as the writer. All right. But here again, it would be good only using a comma. So this is one of the causes for their empowerment, in the region nowadays. Okay, no more observations over there. We're going to be counting, but as I'm going to be counting, let me know please any questions you have so far. I can use more time. I hope you can also be here, please, Natalia, but I'd rather finishing this with you. If you cannot, let me know. But let me know in the meantime, please, if you have any questions so far.
No, that's okay. I am learning with my mistakes.
All right, no worries. And yes, it's worth if you try to. A recommendation here, Natalia, is that after this you give some extra sorry, some extra time and try to rewrite, okay, but rewrite everything with the corrections. All right, that's going to be very useful. Now help me count over here. Just in this paragraph we have 1 for conjugation, 2 for conjugation, 3 for finding. All right, then no, that's punctuation. 3 4 with that one, we're not counting that one. This 5 with that, that's another thing, and 6 would represent. All right, so 6 for structure and conjugation, and we are going to have for punctuation, I believe we have 2, right? It is this one over here, 3, right? This one with the period over there, and this one as introductory idea. All right, 3 for punctuation. Let's keep going. We're going to try to do this fast. On the other hand, good, it is Palestine. Good, if you say it is Palestine, I'm not going to correct this, but it is a statement directly, right? But on the other hand, it's not going to be an introduction for that one. You can say something like, on the other hand, we have Palestine. Okay, we have Palestine. Or there it is, Palestine. All right, because it is Palestine, it's just like presenting something, but not in the best way. Now, you can also use, if it's going to be like a direct contrast, yes, but you can also use another element over here. You can say regarding or looking at. But again, that's going to be something extra. This element over here is not a correction, it's just a recommendation. Okay, so you can say regarding, if it's not directly a contrast, looking at, comma, and then you can say we have and the country.
And if I say on the other hand, we have Palestine, that's incorrect too?
No, you can say that because you are saying, right, on the one hand, we have Israel, or this is Israel, right? On the other hand, if you say it is Palestine, you are saying, but what is Palestine, right? That's like a statement. It is Palestine. But when you say, on the other hand, we have Palestine, you're saying, now we're going to talk about Palestine. All right, but it is good. You can say, on the other hand, with that, it's also correct. But my recommendation with the other hand, on the other hand, is that here instead of concerning, you use on the one hand. Okay, because they are kind of always used together. All right, so on the one hand, we have Israel, and then you give the idea, and on the other hand, we got Palestine, and you give that idea. All right, but again, it's not incorrect. That's only a recommendation there. Then they say that they have lived in the region for centuries, and they have, now again, this is not going to be a mistake, but remember, if you want to avoid forgetting, as you forgot over there, right up there, recommendation, this is not a mistake. Okay, recommendation, always, right, use a comma to divide to complete ideas with a fanboy. Okay, in this way you are never going to forget to use a comma when you have to, as over here. Right here it was obligatory. Here it is not obligatory, but it's a good idea that you always use the comma. right? So they say 10 for centuries, comma, and they have historical and cultural rights in the territory, right? Conformed, all right? We're going to say that in a different way. I'm going to try to think what's the word we can use by West Bank, Gaza, and remember, list of verbs, right? I told you that in the short correction, more than two items, we have to use a comma, all right? So here we have to use the Oxford comma. Okay, comma for more than two items.
In Spanish,
All
we don't
right,
use
that's
the
the thing.
comma for in English.
Yes, exactly. We don't. In English, we do. That's called. Even it has a name, right? It's called the Oxford comma. It is a comma proposed by Oxford, and we use it only when you have more than two items. But it has to be there. Now, here instead of conform, because to conform is something directly from Spanish, all right? But I don't believe that we say to conform something, all right? It's better if you say composed by, all right? Or even sometimes formed by, but composed by or of could be one of the best elements. But let's see what's the element that they got over here. Confirmed? No, that's also something very different, right? So they are even giving extra things that they are not going to be good over there. All right, so here, recommendation, all right, this is going to be conjugation. All right, composed can be one element, all right, or integrated by. Yes, I was also going to say that as an idea. See if that's going to be, it depends, right, on what's the idea that you want to say. Because to say composed by or integrated by, it's going to have a little bit of a different meaning. All right, but look for a better verb over there, according to what's the idea that you want to give at that specific element. All right, so look for a better option. All right, over there. Now, um, good about Gaza, yes, this is not bad, but again, in English, we're not going to use about to refer to something. Okay, this is again to Spanish. You're going to use this concerning, regarding, looking at, all those elements. All right, but about, not necessarily, and not even like this. So it's going to be again regarding, concerning, looking at. All right, those are the best options to refer to something. All right, or you can say talking about Gaza, but you need a verb with that about. This city was an important place for the economical and social development to help the population. And right here, we're going to use again that comma over there. Here, once again, I'm going to say that this is going to be a recommendation. All right, why? Because this city and it can be the same. All right, by my recommendation, always use a comma over there. Anytime you have to complete ideas divided by a fanboy, let's use a comma. Yes, also they affirm that the Jewish elements are legal because they have yes, good, because without comma everything is working good. Now, according to an article of the Spanish, right, newsletter El Diario, all right, um, good, but here we're missing some details, right? Okay, so this again, this is just because it's too given from Spanish. Remember, it's better if you say according to uh, a Spanish newsletter, right, called El Diario, for example. It's not bad if you say an article of a Spanish, but if you say only of a Spanish newsletter, that's not going to be good. We have two elements over here of the Spanish with capital letter, inverting that to make it more natural. But here, the only mistake that I'm going to take into account, because the order is not incorrect grammatically speaking, it's going to be the capital letter. Okay, so in terms of structure, capital letter for the Spanish, And recommendation, all right, is to use an English structure. Sorry. So what is it going to be, right? According to the Spanish New Letter, all right, the Spanish New Letters article, that's going to be more like in English, right? The Spanish newsletter article, El Diario, right? And you state that over there. Also, one little detail over here, but I'm going to apply the same idea, okay? It's not going to be a different mistake. October is a month of the week, of the year, so capital letter, right? So days of the week and months of the year are going to be with capital letter. All right, don't forget with that one over there. And they take these corrections into account. In every international test, they take those details into account. All right, so capital letter. At the moment, there is, all right. Okay, so all of this is like the introduction. It's good. Yes, at the moment, there is one Jewish died. Ah, but you say there is one Jewish died, but the one Jewish died is like a sentence. And you're saying there is, right? But there is going to be something different because we cannot say, right? We cannot say there is one Jewish died for okay, 20 Palestinians died. So here, then what it is incorrect is the word. Okay, died is a verb, or here actually it's not going to be a verb. There's one dead Jewish for each 20 dead Palestine. All right, actually, it can be the opposite, right? There are 20 dead Palestine, right, for each dead Jewish, right? Because if you say each, is going to be for a unit, but after each, you're saying 20 for each 20, right? So my recommendation is just to invert that. But again, the idea is died. Died is not going to be over there, right? She died as a verb, but death here we need a noun, all right? A noun. So it's going to be also as conjugation, but it's going to be death, all right? And my recommendation is going to be this. There are 20 death. No, that one is that's the one we need because that is the main thing about that topic, right? That can be the topic of death. But death is the state, right? It's as an adjective actually over here. That's what we need. Okay, there are 20 deaths. Okay, for each that it's and what's the other one you are using? Jew or Jewish. All right, that's going to be the idea. Again, because that in this case is going to describe the state of the person, right? That the person died. But we have to use that one in this case, all right? It's going to count only as one. Then, even adding all attacks from Hamas to Israel, right? The death numbers, all right? Now we're going to see if we need here the noun or the adjective. Of Palestine, if you said of the Palestines, all right, of the Palestines or of Palestine directly, but one of those. Let's see the recommendation. Palestinians, they are changing that, but my recommendation is to use just Palestine as the people, the group of people. So it will be a good idea. You can change the suggestion they are giving, but if you say just the Palestine, that's going to be like the group of people, and you're not going to talk about plural. You're just talking about one entity. All right. So the numbers of deaths, it will be, or the deaths, because if you say the death numbers, it's not going to be also the correct, because if you say you're telling me this now, because the death, right? That's the translation of the death. right? That's the debt.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're describing the state of them, we have to say that. So it will be the number of debts, all right, of Palestine, or debt Palestine. That's going to be a suggestion over there. Okay, I'm sending that in the chat to give the idea directly. So the number of debt Palestine is incomparable with the attacks and so on and so forth. All right, so here, over here, we're also going to restate that idea. All right, the number in conjugation of debt Palestine, and so on. Or you can use, if you want to be specific and use plural, use Grammarly suggestions, that is Palestinians. All right, so we're going to add that idea over here. You can use that, or we're going to use over here, if you want to talk about just one people, or a group of people. So incomparable with attacks made by Israel invading and bombarding this territory frequently. Okay, so that's up to that point. Now we're about to finish, but let me know, please, any questions that you got up to this point, Natalia. I'm going to be
No,
counting.
no, that's okay. The most of my mistakes are about conjugation, I think.
Yes, I believe so. Some of the structure, the conjugation, the best way to connect those ideas, yes, that is correct. Even, of course, this is part of the spelling, but let me verify that actually. Because we have one for spelling, conjugation. Yes, everything is in the same, spelling, conjugation, and so on. Then punctuation, instructions. So it's not going to affect that much, perhaps, because it is only in one group. All right, the spelling and everything like that. But of course, yes, it's the one that we have to work with the most. So we have 1, 2 with that one. That's other thing. 3 with that. We're not taking that into account. 4 and 5. Okay, I'm taking that in general, not in detail. Okay, 5 structure and conjugation. And for a punctuation, I believe we only have one, right? That one over there, because those are recommendations. They are not incorrect over there. So, to punctuation. All right, good. Now, let's finish with this part. And in the meantime, I'm seeing what you are doing. So we are filling out the instructions that we got, right? The introduction, one body paragraph for one country, the other body paragraph for the other country. You use citations for both elements. So we are following everything we had to follow. Okay, I'm also taking that into account. The last thing, to conclude this document, but this is not common, all right? Again, this is not a mistake, but we don't say to conclude the document or to conclude everything. Usually the transitional word is just to conclude, but we don't use an object with that. All right, you can say to finish with this document, all right, to end this debate, for example, all right, but with the conclude, it's better without. And again, this is not a mistake, I'm not taking this into account, but only, right, to conclude. All right. So to conclude, it is critical to find a solution to this conflict that started many years ago, but with a fair treat that benefits both sides in the same way and respects the customs of each nation. All right. Yes, you're summarizing an idea interesting. Now, I believe that here is that you can say treaty, a treaty, right? For example, the Treaty of the Atlantic, I believe is, I don't remember what's the native for, okay? It's what was formed right after the Cold War with the United States. It was a treaty from the United States and Europe and the USSR, right? The old Russia, the Soviet Union. And when they agreed to this treaty. A treaty is going to be like agreement, right? A legal agreement to do something, right? So a treat, if you say only a treat, that's going to be something different, right? For example, one example can be you can give treats to your dog, right? Treats. Or you can treat someone to a place. Okay, I can, if I say, right, let's go to eat something, and I can say I can treat you this, right? If I treat you that, it means I'm going to invite you that. All right. Now here perhaps you need either a treatment or a treaty. Let's see what's grammarly suggestions for that one. All right, a treatment. All right, why? Because treat, only a treat again, is going to be considered only a verb. Okay, and it has a different meaning. Also, you can treat someone good or you can treat someone bad, right? But to talk about the document, to talk about an agreement, we're going to talk about a treatment. Okay, so that's also part of conjugations and details. So, right, or even you can say an agreement. All right, so good. It is critical to find a solution, you can say, to this conflict, for this conflict that started many years ago, but with a fair treatment or agreement that benefits both sides in the same way and respects the customs of each nation. Good, it is good. It's a complex compound sentence, but it is correct. No life is more important or deserves more consideration than others. Perfect. Finally, the main victim is the innocent population that is falling because of this worrying situation. Yes, yes. Only this detail, then the conclusion doesn't have any other elements, just one conjugation. All right. So this is going to be the final thing. In conjugation, of course, we have right 10, right 15, 16. Okay, 16 for conjugation. For punctuation, we have 4, 5, 6. All right, 6. So this is what we're going to do here. Here, of course, we had 15. It was more than this. All right, that's going to affect that score in this sense, only in this element. Here, 6, we're going to put it over there. All right, with the 6 mistakes. Then the instructions, we followed everything. To me, it was followed. You have had all the elements. You talked about the topic. You developed everything. So you have the instructions part very well structured. And in detail, you had the one introduction, the 2 body paragraphs, and the conclusion. So that is also good. Okay, so this is going to be the total that we have for this one. I don't know if you have any last comments, observations, or questions before finishing, Natalie. We extended the class because I'm not with the next class now. But what do you say? Let me know, please, so that we can finish today.
No, it's okay, and thanks for the extra time. Only I asked for a recommendation for reinforce this specific topic in conjugation. I don't know.
Yes, the
What
only
else?
thing
What can I do?
Yes, the only thing again is good that you work, for example, in Google Docs, or if you have your Word. I don't know if you have Word. I think it's 2021, the last one, or 2023. I don't remember. I got the last one. But if you have the last version of Word, Natalia, also it's important that you establish English as your main language in your computer and in Word, because the corrector also of the last versions of Word, Microsoft Word, but to get the best, you need the license, right? I don't know if you have Word with a license, with an original license. If you do, activate English as the main language and activate all the corrections for grammar. All right, work this, pay attention to the corrections, and the only way to practice this and improve, Natalia, is to see the mistakes that you have, to see why it is a mistake. And in case it was a mistake like this, right, conformed, try to look, conform definition. You're going to see that it doesn't exist, or if it exists, is something different. Then try to look for the word that you want and try to memorize at least 2 or 3 synonyms for that word, right? Composed, integrated, all right, and so on. And that's my main idea. For this one, of course, we are going to be learning little by little. But again, my only recommendation is writing a lot, seeing all the mistakes, and going to the internet and check why it was a mistake. See if the word exists. Look for other synonyms. Look for explanations for that one. Because again, most of these elements I know that you can understand. For example, here, if you put the element over there, you have a comma. And I know that you're going to realize that for both populations, this land is okay, is that one. All right, so analyze why you have to use a comma and why you don't have to use a comma. Remember the rules. Always for the introductory phrase. If it's not your subject, you have to use a comma for anything that is before your subject. Not the verb, you're right. You never divide the verb with a comma. It has to be a subject. If you have like this, something in the middle, you cannot only use one comma. You have to use two commas to establish that this is an interrupter, or you don't have to use the commas at all, right? Those are your two options. If you use the commas, you're saying this is optional. If you use the commas, if you don't use the commas, you're saying this is important. It's extra over there, but it's still important. And the corrections, again, it's just taking a look at the corrections. Try to use them in examples. I don't know if you prefer to memorize, you can do it. You have um, I don't know if they gave you, Natalia, just to finish today, an app, if they give you access to Anki, for example. Do you know Anki or these
Yes,
flashcards? You have it, right?
yes, I installed the application in my computer.
Exactly. So you can create your own words. I don't know if you learned, but it's easy to use Anki. You can create your own words, not only the words that they give you, your own words, and you don't have to do it in a fancy way. You only write the name. For example, to remember that it's not chose, right? And it's chosen, write that in Anki. And in Anki is going to show you how many times you can practice until the app consider that you learned the word. Okay, so use Anki also for this purpose. All the elements that you had in terms of spelling or a mistake in conjugation, you can use Anki. And you can repeat that word every time for 1 week, for 2 weeks, so that you have that at least more integrated in you. All right, but again, that's my general recommendation. These are not big, all right, big mistakes, but of course they are going to affect, all right, the overall score. Okay, and I'm being very strict here. I'm being as strict as they are going to be. Of course, perhaps not that much because in some elements I gave you recommendations, right? For example, the Palestine, the Israeli, but in those cases you have to use that. But again, that's my general recommendation, Natalia. I don't know if you have any last comments. I'm going to share the survey in the meantime.
Yes, I can check these corrections on Google Classroom, right? Or
Yeah, it should be there because
download
this
the
is
thing.
yours. Uh-huh. No, because if you see here,
Okay.
but I'm going to share with you because some people tell me that they don't see. Here you are as a viewer, all right? But
Okay.
just in case, Natalie, because some people told me that they couldn't find the corrections, I'm sending the link. The link is in the chat.
Okay. And
All
I
right,
can
just in
download
case.
with the corrections.
I think you're going to
Um,
have the comments. Uh-huh. Yes, when you download it, you're going to see the comments on Word and you're going to see what I wrote. If not, you can also modify this, right? It's already graded. So I'm going to return this.
yes, I have.
So you can
I have
modify
this.
that.
No, that's okay.
Okay,
I
there you
can
go.
download.
Very good. There you go. So that's it. Thanks again. Again, we use some extra time, but it's because we are with our last two
Yeah.
classes, and it was important to give you that feedback. Now, the only thing we have left then, Natalia, remember, of course, you have to finish everything with Pearson. On Friday, we have the speaking presentation. Remember, you have to speak for 10 minutes, and you have to control that. I'm going to be saying the time, but you have to say when you stop, all right? And we have only one more lesson to cover, and that's it. With that, we're
Okay.
finishing then. Natalia, have a good night, and I'll see you on Friday.
Okay. Thank you. See you.
All right? Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Good night.